Hello, welcome to Accelerating Sales Cycles Without Burning Out Your Team. This is our next webinar for the Manufacturer's Efficiency webinar series, and I'll be presenting this month. We actually delivered this presentation live, and yours truly forgot to hit the record button. So we're re-recording in the studio so that we can send the recording out to those who attended live, and those who weren't able to attend live can now view the recording. So today's session is about one team, one goal approach to sales and marketing and operations alignment as well. So how do you accelerate your sales cycle without burning out your team? So first of all, what I want to talk about is for people who may be attending who don't even know what a sales cycle is. What it is, it's a repeatable step-by-step process that a business uses to guide a lead, a potential customer, from that initial point of contact, the first time they hear about or encounter your company, to a closed deal. So these are the steps you go through to get them from that first contact to a closed deal. Prospecting, qualifying, presenting, handling objections, closing. And it's basically a roadmap for consistent sales. It helps a team understand where each lead is in the process, track their progress through the sales process and sales journey. And B2B sales cycles can tend to be a lot longer and more complex than B2C sales cycles. A consumer, a lot of times they do their research when they're ready to buy, they're ready to buy. A business needs to know you, like you, trust you, get to know you, why they should come to you versus your competitors. Most of my clients in the manufacturing space have told me their sales cycles on average are about a year and a half. So that's a long sales cycle. So what we like to do is try to shorten that. How do we convert them in less than a year and a half? So long sales cycles, a lot of times they're blamed on problems that aren't really a problem. It's blamed on the sales team. Salespeople are lazy. They're not out there hunting. They're not blah, blah, blah. Or sales is expected to be the only one to bring in all the revenue. And they get burned out, when they're out there banging on doors, trying to earn a commission. And then the other problem is silos. So I don't know about you guys, but every organization I go into, it's like sales does their thing, marketing does their thing, operations does their thing. A lot of times they don't like each other. Operations is like, and sales is like, marketing is blah, 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 blah. And so that creates friction. You point fingers, you waste time. So that's the real problem. It's not lazy people. It's not people unwilling to work hard. All of us go to work and work hard. None of us wants to lose our jobs. We all want to earn money. We all want to be good at what we do. We all take pride in what we do. So my goal is to look at the reality of the sales cycle. And one of the biggest problems in manufacturing, they tend to be very bottom of funnel focused, which in a marketing funnel, you're looking at top of funnel, which is education. Those people don't know who you are. They just came into your funnel. Middle of funnel, you've warmed them up. They know who you are. They're considering you. Bottom of funnel is they're ready to make a buying decision. The reality is that very few people come into a company ready to buy right now. That's a small percent of prospects. So if your company is bottom of funnel focused and only sales focused, and your salespeople are trying to close and convert, they're probably talking to 1,000 people and maybe converting 3 of them, because the other 997 aren't ready to buy yet. But then they drop off the face of the earth. Sales forgets about them. They're not ready to buy. They're not bringing me income. Let's move on. Where marketing could continue to nurture those 997 prospects until they are ready to buy, which might be a year from now. So sales can only close on what people are ready on people who are ready to purchase. Um, so that's a structural problem. That's a process problem, not a sales problem. And that's why I have a Lean Six Sigma background, and I look at organizations holistically, and I look at them as a system. And sales isn't a system, marketing isn't a system, operations isn't a system. Collectively, together, collaboratively, they are a system. So, sales cycles, why do they drag on and take so long? Why do we see them taking a year and a half? Often because if you're not doing marketing, prospects enter a sales conversation too early. They talk to the sales team, boom, day one. The sales reps end up wasting their time trying to educate these prospects, teach them what a marketing team could do to warm them up. And then a lot of times the deals end up stalling. The customer can't decide, the sales, the problem isn't clearly defined, there's no clarity. And also outside issues outside of your company can affect why a sales cycle drags on. I mean, look at the current economy. People are fiscally conservative, prices have gone up. You look at an election year, people sit on their money waiting to see whether it's going to be Democratic or Republican and which direction the legislation is going to swing. Also, in manufacturing, especially, salespeople have often come up from the shop floor. They're machinists, engineers, technically brilliant, can talk product specifications, but they've never gotten sales training. So, how do they know how to close and convert? How do they know the most effective way to sell? It's trial and error, and error can lose you sales and lose you uh, revenue. So, I'd rather not do trial and error. I'd rather have those salespeople trained so that they're losing the least amount of prospects possible. So I wanted to do a case study for you, like real world. Like, yeah, this is Gina talking a whole lot of stuff. Like, has she really done this? Yes, I have. So I had a client who was a high precision plastics machine shop. And they are the ones who told me their sales cycle was a year and a half. So they had never done any marketing. They were a sell organization. They didn't even have a CRM. They used Excel spreadsheets. And so the untrained sales team was responsible for all of the revenue. And that's why it was taking a year and a half. The poor salespeople, they were worn out. So they hired me to come in, and I worked directly with the sales manager, and I did marketing for them. And I also worked in an advisory capacity for a year. We got them a conversion in 6 months. So we decreased their sales cycle by 2/3, 66% faster. They didn't have to add any employees. The sales team wasn't burned out anymore because I was doing a lot of the warm up and lead generation activities. So the salespeople could focus on those bottom of funnel people, the ones who were ready to buy. And we were aligned. Sales and marketing were in alignment. And that one sale paid for my entire year of working for them, plus a few $1,000s. So they got me for free for a year, and they also put some money in their bank just from me bringing in one lead that converted in 6 months. So that is success. I mean, if you can hire a consultant who pays for themselves, and then because their sales cycles are longer, I mean, I can't work magic. The next year, when I wasn't working with them anymore, all the qualified leads I brought in and nurtured started to convert. So they sent me a couple gifts. They were like, wow, Gina, it really happened. And they ended up getting a lot more sales. And it was in less than a year and a half, because the first 6 months, I set up the CRM, created content, fixed up their website, segmented their lists, started email marketing. Really, it was the last 6 months of the year where we started doing lead gen. So we got that one client in that last 6 months. And then the next 6 months, they started getting all kinds of sales. So I still decreased their sales cycle for those leads from a year and a half to a year. So that was amazing. They were so happy. So how did that happen? What changed? What kind of magic did I work to make that happen? It was about ownership. It was about marketing, taking ownership of lead education, problem framing, and authority building. Sales didn't have to do that. They didn't have to educate the customer and solve the problem and find out the pain point and build brand authority and trust. And that was off their plate. That freed them up to enter conversations later, but stronger. They didn't have to get in with those people who weren't ready to buy yet. They were able to bring back information to marketing after talking to customers to help with content and lead generation because we were working collaboratively. And then they utilized a CRM. So I set up a CRM for them. We could track the entire buyer journey, track activities, automate things, streamline things. So a lot was taking off sales' back. So with that said, prospects arrived to sales informed, pre-qualified, and aligned. And that's what can happen when you have the two teams working together as one team, one seamless team. So, how do you make this happen? There's always a disconnect. Sales and marketing working at cross purposes, not in lockstep. Why does that happen? It's not through any fault of sales and marketing. They're just doing their jobs. It's a leadership thing. So you need from a top down to really establish that collaborative environment. Now, look at sales and marketing. They're different. Sales is on commission. They're commission based. There's revenue pressure all the time so that they can collect a paycheck and the company can make money. And they are risk averse. They don't want to take actions that do not put money in their pocket, that are non-paying. So helping marketing with a blog or, some thought leadership piece, they don't see that as a paying activity. Marketing is more long term. They're not short term. They're nurturing. They're about the trust and consistency and awareness. They're not worried about revenue. And they're measured differently. They're not measured based on commission and sales, how much they're bringing in. They're measured based on other KPIs. So conflict is inevitable. Like when you've got these two systems working differently, expecting different things from each other, it's not a personal issue. Sales doesn't hate marketing, and marketing doesn't hate sales. It's a misalignment and a misunderstanding. So ways to overcome this is to incentivize sales and marketing. So you can create joint planning meetings, an annual or quarterly planning meeting. You can create a unified tech stack like a CRM and a dashboard. You can create shared KPIs. You can have revenue goals, pipeline metrics. You can define handoff rules. What is a sales ready lead? What does that look like? Educate marketing. Sales needs to educate them. You can create content and tools to support the buyer journey and support the sales team. You can have alignment meetings and you can create a feedback loop. Sales can share real customer insights with marketing so that sales, marketing, and the customer, it's all the customer best interest. That's what sales and marketing should be worrying about, the customer. And sales is the eyes and ears on the street that can create that feedback loop from the customer. So if you do that well, what happens? If you do that well, you get better leads, you get quicker conversions, your customers are happier, and revenue grows, and the teams are all communicating together. They're collaborating. And it's an amazing thing to see. I do this. This is as a B2B growth strategist. I don't just focus on marketing. I focus on alignment. How do we align sales, marketing, and operations to be more effective, grow revenue, and work collaboratively? How do we overcome barriers? So it happens. I've seen it happen, and it's a miracle when it does, because most companies that does not happen. So how do I make this happen? One thing I tell people is when I became more than just a marketer is when I learned other languages. So when I learned Lean Six Sigma, I learned to speak the language of manufacturing. When I became Sandler sales trained and got my bronze certification and a year of sales mastery, I learned to speak sales. I learned sales as challenges. I, I used to say when I was just a marketer, man, I don't want to be responsible for asking for a credit card. I don't want my income to depend on getting money from other people. Well, now I do that. I'm a consultant. Um, so I sell for my own business. And so once that happens, you can have a sensibility and a sensitivity to the challenges of the other person's role and learn more about them. So I suggest when I go into organizations, cross training or shadowing, have marketing go out on sales calls with the salespeople, or have them listen in on, outbound calls for someone who's doing inside sales. Um, Marketing can then have work with sales and have sales understand what marketing does. And what I do when I go into an organization, I sit in on every single sales meeting. It's not a sales meeting anymore. It's a sales and marketing meeting. We are sitting there talking about sales and marketing. I'm hearing what the sales team needs, what their challenges are. They're hearing what my challenges are, what I need from them because they are the experts, and we become a team. So that is something that I always do when I go into an organization. My clients right now, I work every day with the sales manager. So one team, one goal. This is just kind of summarizing what I just said, but it goes even further. So when you're on a team and your sales or your marketing or your commission based, a lot of times it's what's in it for me, what's in it for marketing, what's in it for sales, what's in it for my commission. But if you have shared objectives, it becomes what's in the best interest of the company. If the company succeeds, we succeed. So it's not my success, it's our success. And that can happen when you have those shared KPIs, shared language, and shared accountability. Revenue is a team sport. It's not a salesperson's sport. It's not a marketing person's sport. And I can tell you, unfortunately, being a marketer, which is why I pivoted and I'm a growth strategist now, a lot of times when revenue drops and sales drop, marketing's the first to lose their jobs. And it's not because they weren't great employees and didn't do their jobs. The company can't afford them anymore. And I've had it happen to me in the past over and over where I generated 35 qualified leads for the sales team. They quoted 80% of them. They didn't convert a single sale. Who lost their job? The entire marketing team was eliminated and the salespeople are still there. It's hard, and that's because there isn't alignment and shared KPIs and shared languages. There's not shared accountability. So let's move on to the next step. So the opposite of that, if there is, and if there's lockstep, what does that look like? Marketing focuses on demand generation, buyer readiness, and sales enablement. Where in the past, if you didn't do marketing, sales had to do all that too. They had to create their own demand, generate their own leads, get the buyer ready, enable the sales process, educate the customer. All that is taken off the sales team's back. So the sales focuses on diagnosing the problem, qualifying the marketing qualified lead, and closing the deal. And there's a seamless handoff process. So burnout. Why does burnout happen? Burnout happens because sales chases cold leads, period. You always hear salespeople saying cold calling. I'm cold calling. I'm cold calling. I don't cold call, and I sell. I sell for my own business. I sell for my clients. Why do I not cold call? I warm call. So I use marketing to warm up the leads. They're aware of who I am. They respect me. They see me as a thought leader. They engage with my content. They've connected with me. And then when I put in a call to them, hey, it's Gina Tabasso at Barracuda B2B. You get my newsletter and you read X and such article and X and such article, because I can see that in my CRM. So I know what to talk to them about. I know what they're interested in. They're more ready to talk to me because they know who I am. I'm not a stranger. Marketing often gets blamed for bad leads, but sometimes it's that feedback loop that's missing. The leads are bad because marketing doesn't understand what's necessary because there's no feedback loop. It's not the sales team's fault that, they're blaming marketing for bad leads. It's that there's no feedback loop. There's no process. And so leadership just pushes harder. They come down on marketing. They come down on sales. Everybody gets afraid that they're going to lose their job. So what I tell people is you can accelerate sales cycles without burning out if you have better inputs, fewer deals, higher quality, and clearer messaging, consistent education, and mutual respect. Mutual respect. That is the key. It really is. And I see it not happening in too many organizations. Sales and marketing need to respect each other and they need to work together. So, this little equation here is acceleration A equals velocity, or is the rate of change of velocity. So, acceleration is, you're accelerating, you're changing your velocity. And it's the change in velocity divided by the change in time. So that's calculus. So if acceleration is a derivative of velocity and can be determined by calculating the slope of the movement, that's how you accelerate. You change velocity, you change time. So the goal of marketing is to change velocity, and then you can change the lead time. You can change the sales cycle. So this is how it happens. I can't work miracles. I can't go in and tell a sales manager what to do. I can't go in and make the marketing team do anything. It's got to be the top down. And it goes back to Lean Six Sigma. If you think of Lean Six Sigma, if you know that system, in every Lean Six Sigma project, you have a champion. And it's got to be someone with position, power, and leadership who can champion that project and make sure that it stays in alignment. So that's part of the problem is when you have a president, owner, CEO, and they're in the business doing what they do and worried about what they do, not worried about the teams because they have leaders in place. They hired a sales manager for a reason. They hired a CMO for a reason. Let them take care of it. Well, the CMO does what the CMO does with their marketing team, and the sales leader does what he does with his sales team. Leadership needs to mandate that collaboration. They have to reward team outcomes, not silo outcomes. So the sales team's getting rewarded with commission, and the marketing team, if they do a great job, they're getting taken out to lunch or a $500 bonus at the end of the year or whatever. But they're not getting team outcomes, sales and marketing together. And so I always go in and I tell leadership teams that they need to be the instigator of this change. So that champion's job is to hold those teams together, to stop the blame cycles, to force clarity and protect the system. Not protect the department, not protect revenue, not protect the people, protect the system, protect the process. So there's that trickle down reality. We all know trickle down. I wish it was always a trickle down of champagne glasses. But, when the company wins, the individuals win. When leadership makes everybody be in alignment, the teams win. It's not a competition. And I go into organizations all the time and I see sales is better than marketing. Marketing is better than sales. The salespeople are competing to, because that's how they're incentivized. Who got the most sales this month? Who brought in the most revenue? Oh, I'm a superhero. You're a loser. I've been the top salesperson for the last 6 months. Step up, buddy, step up. It's not a competition. It is cooperation. We go along together. We bring each other up. We don't put each other down. So respect each other's constraints. Do what serves the greater good. And if you have that mentality, man, people succeed. You become a team. You care deeply about each other's success. And I really want to see that. I want to see marketing teams care deeply about sales' success. And I want to see sales teams care deeply about marketing success. So, summary. Faster sales cycles are a design problem. Burnout's a symptom. Sales and marketing have to operate together. One team, one goal, real growth. And where do you start is the audit. So people ask me all the time, oh my God, this is overwhelming. Like, where do I start? What do I do next? This is like drinking from a fire hose. I said, do an audit. Look at where prospects enter your sales cycle. First, do that. Identify any friction between sales and marketing. Talk to your salespeople. See what their gripe is with marketing. Talk to marketing. What is their gripe with sales? Get a leadership champion. And then you can start to fix the system, not the people. It's the system that's flawed, not the people, usually. So I wanted to conclude and let you know that number one, we are a team. Matt, Rich, and I, we do this webinar every month, and we're all from different backgrounds. So Rich is with Schooley Mitchell. He does cost reduction analysis. He can free up capital that companies didn't even know they were losing, that they can then reinvest in their business to grow their business. And his team of auditors looks at like practically every expense and bill a company has, and they can find errors in billing and really save you a lot of money. Matt is a focal point coach, and he goes into organizations. He helps them with um, leadership, with M&A and succession planning, with valuing their business for sale, with teams and like HR teams. You know, when you've got good employees, difficult employees, when an employee's maybe not in the right seat, he does a lot of stuff, and you can hear a lot about what both of them do. On my YouTube channel, I post all the videos of all of our past recordings. And so you can view anything that they've done in the past as well as me. These are QR codes that link you to our websites and our contact information. And so if you want to reach out to us to talk about anything further, we're here for you. And then the last way I want to end here is the save the date. So this, again, is the slide from when we delivered this in January. So we're up against it already for February. So next week, Matt's going to be delivering the Ultimate Path to Efficiency Strategic Planning. And we are delivering that live through Eventbrite. And we'll be sharing those links on our LinkedIn as well. So if you follow us there, you'll be able to see the promotions. Or if you search for the Manufacturers Efficiency Webinar Series on Eventbrite, you'll find our event, and it's free to register. Rich is uncovering rather than covering. He's uncovering hidden costs in telecommunications in March. And then I'll be back in April to talk about the mentality of that's how we've always done it is the most expensive phrase in manufacturing. And manufacturers like to operate like, no, we don't want to change. This is the way we've always done it. It's worked that way. We're just going to keep doing it this way. Well, the whole world's changing around you, and sometimes the way you've always done it isn't going to adapt to the way it's going to be done. AI is an example. So that's all I have to cover today. If you watch this program, please, thank you so much for attending. Please attend some of our future programs. Support Matt and Rich in the next couple months. And we look forward to seeing you again real soon. Matt and Rich, since we don't have an audience for questions, I want to open it up to you to see if you have comments or questions that you'd like to add to the presentation.
Yeah, I had one, Gina. First, great job as always. But you mentioned during one of the slides about KPIs and how sales and marketing each have different KPIs. For sales, obviously one of the key KPIs is their sales numbers and the revenue generated. Can you speak a little bit to what types of KPIs marketing staffs will use and have in place and what they're aiming for?
Yeah, marketing's KPIs are usually revolving around growth. So growing number of visitors to the website per month, growing number of leads generated, growing social media followers, decreasing bounce rates from the website by creating engaging content and people stay on the website longer. Increasing open rates on email, increasing click-through rates to the website from email, form fills on the website. So they're usually measured against what kind of new leads they're bringing into the system. And they do it's an informal KPI, but they get blamed when there's not enough sales, that they're not bringing enough qualified leads in. But I think that that's because of that disconnect and lack of communication between the two teams. And so I tell people the shared KPIs should focus on profitable deliverable growth, like revenue versus plan, gross margin, forecast accuracy, on time delivery. You don't think about that, but operations, sales and marketing are dependent on operations. So marketing can do a great job and warm up a lead, hand it over the fence to sales, they close and convert the lead. And then if operations drops the ball and they don't produce on time and deliver on time, the whole client falls apart. So I always say it's not sales and marketing alignment. Operations needs to be in alignment too, because those three work together to serve the customer. And if one of them is out of alignment, the customer's gone.
Yeah, I think that speaks so clearly to what you're talking about with regards to alignment. If marketing isn't in touch and in communication with sales, who's on the ground and speaking to prospects and customers to know what they're looking for, then how is marketing possibly going to be able to create the content that is engaging to those people that they're trying to get after? So it all goes hand in hand.
That's a great question, Rich. Thanks for asking that.
Yeah, Gina, thank you for the presentation. You really hit the nail on the head when it comes to getting the sales and marketing teams to start be in a more collaborative mode as opposed to competitive or non-communicative. Beyond the cross training you talked about, what are there other ways where you've gone into the company where those two those parties, sales and marketing and maybe even operations as well, where they are adversarial or just not communicating? Are there other ways where maybe more kumbaya kind of ways to get those groups talking to one another and being more collaborative and more cooperative with each other in the greater interest of the organization?
Yeah, that's a great question, Matt. Yes, I can have examples from my past and even my present, my current clients. So number one, I always recommend a short weekly tactical meeting, not a meeting to go over like a working session. And even with my clients, I do that. I give them their quote unquote homework in this week's meeting. I talk about what they need to do and why. The next meeting, they come back with their homework. We go over it. And homework might be, downloading your leads from your CRM or looking at blog posts that I've written and see if they're in alignment with what sales wants to message, or something like that. And then they come back with their feedback. We tweak, we tinker, and then the next item that we need to go over gets presented, and vice versa. Sales will come to me asking me to do this or me to do that, and then I deliver. So it's not like we email each other, could you do this for me? And then we never hear back from one another. We're doing it together in a meeting. So I do that tactical weekly meeting. I also, if you have shared KPIs in place, I would say then you need to do something with those. So I would recommend a monthly performance review. Like, how are the team's goals against KPI? Like, are they achieving those? What percentage are we there? Are we a quarter of the way there and it's, second quarter? Are we 3/4 of the way there and it's only first quarter? Like, those are those kumbaya moments, rah team or light a fire team. Also, a quarterly planning session always helps, and you can make that fun. So you said about kumbaya. I'm like, I think people work with people they like. They work better with people they like and that they understand. And if operations is on the plant floor doing this and sales is out in their cars doing this and marketing's in the office doing this, they don't get a lot of chance to work together or get to know each other or do anything together. So you don't want it to be too frequent where like people get meeting fatigue and burnout.
Yeah.
But if you did like a quarterly planning session, got them together off-site. That's the other thing. It's hard in a manufacturing facility to take your people away from your shop floor. But if you could do that, and I've seen organizations do it, like do it during your shutdown in July when you're doing preventative maintenance, or you're shut down in December, and get the team together for something fun, some kind of team building activity where they also maybe have post-it notes on the wall and can do some, like, gamify it. Gamification always helps with things that are seen as boring. So those are some ideas I have that I've seen work.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Well, I think we're at an end now. We've had our questions. Hope this was of value to you, and see you again next month. Thanks, guys.